In Brazil, we've got the President Lula, who's just been elected. He's on the platform talking in Portuguese. He also talks in Hindi, by the way.
Okay.
He's getting likes and comments from the Hindi belt of India, being the president of Brazil. That's an experience that he's never had before.
And that he can't have on Twitter.
Yeah, correct. We're probably the only local social media which has the biggest influencers active, and we've never paid any influencer to be on the platform. We should have been more aggressive, and we became too conservative too soon, right? Or chased unit level profitability too soon, right? Rather than go all out. The natural progression should be with your every startup, you should become more confident and more risk taking.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to prove too much anymore. Like our best valued is Flipkart or, even Byju's. In the grand scheme of things, if these two companies didn't exist, the world would still
be the same.
Go on, right? That's our best, most valued startups. And the world doesn't even care whether they exist or not. Apart from the shareholders of those companies, who else cares?
Nobody.
Right?
They'll find someone
because I'll have another alternative, or I'll figure out something else. The more investors who take crazy bets of defining the future, the more India will be able to solve world problems. When you know that you're not perfect as a human, now trusting that on a machine to replicate whatever you're doing will only lead to acceleration of what humanity would have done otherwise. Are we ready for that? Are we not ready for that?
Hi, this is Siddharth Aluwalia. Welcome to 100x Entrepreneur Podcast. Today I have with me Aprameya Radhakrishnan, founder of Koo and founder of TaxiForSure. Koo is India's largest microblogging platform. Koo is like India's alternate to Twitter. And I think you guys have better numbers than Twitter in India, right?
As in, we started off Koo to give a voice to the people who didn't have a voice.
Twitter is for intellectuals.
Yeah. So Twitter is a closed network of 1-2% of India, right? The influencers, whether it's the cricketer or the Bollywood person or spiritual leader or politician. So they are expressing themselves in English most of the time, and they're connecting to the English intellectuals of the country. But there is definitely a need for them to connect with the language audiences. Right? And at the same time, there is a need for the language audiences to be able to express on the open internet. So for example, everybody's on Facebook and WhatsApp, but they are closed networks. You will still talk to known people there. Even LinkedIn is known people, who you've worked with in the past now and who you want to work with in the future. But an open internet experience of expressing oneself in language doesn't exist. And that's what we've done. We're the largest language open network in the country where user-generated content happens. 80% of our platform is actually non-English. So the voices that you hear on Koo are very, very different from the voices you will hear anywhere else.
Yeah. And can you share the scale of Koo today?
Yeah. So we've got 60 million plus downloads across the world. We've got presence in Brazil as well. So the two main countries that have deeper presence is India and Brazil today. Some of the biggest personalities, like in spirituality, it's Sadhguru and Shri kind of personalities. In politics, of course, all the union ministers are there. Mr. Piyush Goyal, Ms. Smriti Irani, Mr. Yogi Adityanath, who's the chief minister. We've got a bunch of chief ministers all around, right? Like the chief minister of Rajasthan, Mr. Ashok Gehlot, Mr. Kamal Nath, who's the opposition leader in Madhya Pradesh, Mr. Shivraj Singh Chauhan. We've got all these very important personalities speaking in languages. And in Brazil, we've got the President Lula, who's just been elected. He's on the platform talking in Portuguese. He also talks in Hindi, by the way.
Okay.
He's getting likes and comments from the Hindi belt of India, being the president of Brazil. That's an experience that he's never had before.
And that he can't have on Twitter.
Yeah, correct. That's where we are. And our idea is to take this to every country. So if you look at the mood of the world, there's only predominantly US-based social media that has centralized social media. We actually want to take and give social media as a service almost to Germany, France, Mexico, Indonesia, Japan. So all of these countries should have an option to run a localized social media according to their definitions of freedom of speech, their definition of hate speech. And, for us as a very accepting platform and, a platform that comes from a very accepting country like India, I think it's a great alternate solution that people can have, against Twitter.
I think the narrative also here is right. Every technology that's being built since 1980s is controlled by Americans.
Yeah.
Right? Be it now today, Google Play Store, that's a huge narrative, right?
Yeah.
Why are all apps, the restrictions, how they should behave is controlled by Google Play Store. Then, the social media today is controlled by the American narrative. So there's nothing localized where speakers, FM was one area where people could speak and relate in local languages. What you are going to do is try to be the FM for today's audience.
Correct. And the thing is, centralized technology is actually good, but when countries are not allowed to be themselves, what I mean by that, as in local languages are not prevalent on a platform, or the centralized definition of freedom of speech is applied to every country across the world, irrespective of their their economic status or their cultural nuances. Those are the things that are becoming a problem and a friction. Right. So the ability for a country to be able to run its own social media is very important. There are very few countries that can build their own social media. India is one of them, right? China has already built.
But that's China is separate from the world.
Correct. China has built its own and it's
controlling its own and doesn't want to share it with the world.
And nobody else can enter China. So in the case of India, because we allow others also to operate here, we have the unique opportunity to go and operate elsewhere as well. Like today, US is talking about banning TikTok, right? Because there is some kind of danger in their population using it. But the same kind of threat won't be felt when it is Koo in US, right? Because we allow Twitter to operate in India. US will allow Koo to operate in US as well, as long as the users love it. So our whole goal is to go and give a real alternative with real love from the users, and see how global we can actually become.
And I think other thing that's an advantage for you is the data residency can be in the country of its origin. So in Germany, you can have the data residing in Germany, whereas in case of TikTok, all data had to reside in China.
Correct. As in, all of these are very India-specific advantages, right? Like, we will actually go and say, we're happy to host all your data here and actually have local partners in every country, right? Why not actually have the biggest businessman of the country, the biggest media company of the country participate in making Koo a success in that country, right? Whether it's equity, revenue share, whatever it is, we would actually be at a much more bigger advantage if we have a local face which is actually acting as the representative of Koo in the local country, right? So those are some of the thoughts that are very unique to what we want to do versus a Chinese company or an American company.
And do you think the current headwinds in the market, right? We're almost sitting in a recession today, almost a weekly basis, a new bank, an American bank is crashing. Does it derail your path to be a global social media platform for local voices?
Yeah. So when we talk about the market, I think, we've gone from a aggressive market to a, more efficient market, right? The market is looking for efficient businesses. As a social media company, I would have liked the market to be in an aggressive mode for a little longer, because we could have then hit higher scale before we started monetizing. Like 4 months ago, we weren't even monetizing. Right? When we've started monetizing, we've already seen that in 4 months, we make more money per active user than most other platforms that have started in India, right? So that shows the quality of the network that we have been able to attract, right? So we're probably the only local social media which has the biggest influencers active, and we've never paid any influencer to be on the platform, right? So we are super efficient on cost. We have only technology and team, and now we've plugged in revenue. And this model for India, let's say India becomes close to profitability, right? And then with the same technology, if you go to a Germany where the advertising rates are higher, and for no additional cost. You can actually start making higher advertising money from Germany, right? That's amazing, right? Like 10x the rate of advertising is already prevalent in Germany. So with 1/10 the size of users in India, you can actually make as much revenue there as well. So I think it's super advantageous. The market has actually forced everybody to be more efficient. And I think it's a good thing overall for the market. So not too worried about it, because the more efficient you are, the more money that you will be able to attract as a business.
Got it. But in short term, it definitely, impacts the scale at you could have continued to
scale,
grow.
correct. So we could have probably been 10x the scale that we are today. But, I wouldn't have even thought of revenue at that point in time. But as an entrepreneur, you've also been one.
Yes.
So you know how you will have to navigate every situation. When the market is aggressive, if you're going to be conservative, the market doesn't respect you. Yeah, so you have to navigate each situation.
You have your own unique space, right? There are companies like Daily Hunt, ShareChat, which are also serving the same set of audience. Can you share it? How does the positioning work for Koo in the audience mind?
So I think, every platform, one has a particular use case, right? And for that use case, you will attract a certain crowd from the population, right? So for example, let's take Facebook as an example. Facebook is a network of family and friends.
Yes.
So when you open Facebook, you are expecting updates from family and friends. Now Facebook isn't really updates from family and friends, it's random content. And that's why it's kind of like losing relevance. Instagram is for lifestyle. Like what you eat, where you go, who you hang out with, all of that is on Instagram. Twitter is for thoughts and opinions. Daily Hunt is an aggregator of news, and you will go there to consume all your news in different languages, whichever language you like. ShareChat is more entertainment. It's a bunch of WhatsApp forwards relevant today that is being circulated on that network. Koo is a thoughts and opinions network, which is attracting people who want updates from people that they follow. Right? So each one has a different use case, right? And we are different because we kind of like attract the top of the pyramid. So the influencers are on Koo, English folks are on Koo, and the premium language folks are on Koo, right? In a ShareChat kind of environment, I think the language speakers who are at the bottom of the pyramid are on ShareChat, right? At least our learning has been that the more top of the pyramid you are, the more you monetize, right? The more bottom of the pyramid you are, the less ability to monetize. So if you're a platform which has bottom of the pyramid, you basically should spend lesser to build that platform to become more meaningful as a business. If you have top of the pyramid, you can probably spend a little more because you'll anyway monetize a little more. So I think we're anyway spending super less, and we have the top of the pyramid. So very high likelihood of being extremely efficient and extremely profitable going forward.
Got it. And when you started Koo, right, you're a serial entrepreneur. TaxiForSure was one of the highest exits in India, which is an exit-deprived nation till now.
Proper exit.
Yeah. And when you started Koo, were VCs, other entrepreneurs saying content is a poor business in India? Right? The cost per mille rates, CPM rates are the lowest globally in India. Even if you are able to reach 1 billion people, you will be among the companies which make the least amount of revenue.
Yes, all these statements that you're saying is true. It's not like you're going to make billions of dollars doing a content company in India. That's why we've kind of addressed that by modeling ourselves globally. Like the model in India will work in Brazil or Germany or Indonesia, all the same. You just need to go and build the networks independently. And then finally, when you have 10 countries, it becomes a global network anyways. Right? So I think for us as a company, not sticking to just India as a market has helped us answer that question, number one. And second, when we started off, this is not where I was, as in this is a learning through the journey of the last 3 years. But for us, conceptually, giving a voice to every Indian, irrespective of language, was the reason we started. And over a period of time, we also saw the macros of having an Indian platform for India and, giving that to the rest of the world who can't build their own platform also is very important, right? So I think all of these reasons put together, these have come together now and kind of like, answered why we exist and why we will be more profitable than any other platform that has started off from India.
But when you started, right, going global wouldn't have been one of your top 10 priorities.
Not at all. I wasn't even thinking about it. So it was India, deeper into India, languages. That's how we started. And in that journey, we realized, okay, the more effort we put into, let's say, going and building a community into Malayalam, is it worth spending that much money? Because will Malayalam community give back as much return in terms of advertising? If it's not, then you go more top of the pyramid and go more international, right? And the deeper audiences will anyway come because you're a more well-known brand, right? You almost get to build those deeper communities for free if you become more well-known at the top.
Okay.
Hi everyone, before we begin, I would like to share that this podcast is brought to you by Prime Venture Partners, an early stage VC fund led by Amit Somani, Shripati Acharya and Sanjay Swami. Prime is often the first institutional investor in category-defining tech startups in fintech, SaaS, healthcare and education, such as MyGate, Quizzes, Planet Spark, Bolt and Clip. To know more about Prime, visit primevp.in.
And coming about, when you exited TaxiForSure, so I can tell from my experience, when I exited my company, sold it off, I went into a depression thinking, this is the worst mistake of my life and what I'll do next. It was a long period.
Yeah.
Was it this case with you that it was null and void?
Now that I think of it, I've had so many experiences of angel investing, experience of Koo. With Koo, I've learned so much about the world, right? So I think all of that wouldn't have been possible if I were only running TaxiForSure, right? Like I would have been, very, very entrenched into mobility and everything else, but I wouldn't know the rest of the world.
But let's go back in that point of time, right?
At that point in time, yes, as in we did feel bad about losing an opportunity to become the player in the industry, but I think it's all worked out well overall, right? It was a momentary, okay, did we do the right thing? Did we make mistakes that ended up in a sale? In our case, we ended up in a good sale, right? Which means, it wasn't by design, but there was Uber and Ola who were both being aggressive and, that was the moment that they wanted to buy us and it worked out well. But in a bad market, those exits might not have as good, right? Overall thing has worked out well for us. But at that point in time, yes, we did feel bad about what happened and why did we end up selling instead of being the leader.
And if you reflect back, right, and this is a lesson for all entrepreneurs, you were a 10x better product than anybody else in the Indian market, right? And the advice always is, right, build a 10x better product than anything else what is present in the market. Does it hold true? Like, because somebody with a large amount of capital can then...
I think product and traction definitely is something that's important, that's fundamental. You should have it, right? Both our driver side and user side, we were extremely good.
Yeah.
As in, people still remember us, both the drivers and users saying, oh, okay, you guys used to be really kick-ass.
TaxiForSure was my first ride-hailing app when I came to Bangalore in 2014.
Yeah, we were the only ones in Bangalore, I think. So, I think what we didn't do is read the market sentiment well. Like, we kept talking unit economics and more conservative on our growth strategy compared to the competition.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe our reading of the market was actually true. Now,
in the long term.
Yeah, in the long term, both Uber and Ola today, the market share and the market cap of both of those companies, when they go public for India, we will know the true value of that market cap, right? Maybe we were right and they overestimated and became more aggressive. But the investor market truly believed that, the market was much larger. So, should we have responded to that to become that leader is the only question, right? So, I think at that point in time, we thought, okay, maybe we missed a trick. We should have been more aggressive and we became too conservative too soon, right? Or chased unit level profitability too soon, right? Rather than go all out. You never know, should we have seen food come into place, grocery come into place, other transport solutions come into place, put all of that together within TaxiForSure and hence been more aggressive about hyperlocal delivery. We should have. As in, we were the first ones to do hyperlocal stuff, right? So we could have done a Dunzo, we could have done a Swiggy, we could have done all the grocery delivery startups. All that put into one company is valuable, right? Like in Southeast Asia, Grab is doing all of that. In Middle East, Careem is doing all of that. In US, Uber is doing all of that. So in India, one company doing all of this theoretically should have existed. Yeah, so as in, these are all ifs and buts.
But just trying to assimilate the learnings from there, right? The learnings from TaxiForSure and what you implemented at Koo now.
We're a lot more aggressive. Like I'm talking global, since the last at least 6 months very aggressively. That's a 2.5-year-old company from India saying, I want to be global. Right. So I wouldn't have said this if I didn't know what being aggressive is all about. Right. And I truly think the next decade, Indian companies, like for example, the Swiggy experience is actually better than the Careem experience or
Obviously.
Grab experience.
Or even Uber experience.
In the US, right? Just that probably as an Indian company, we didn't think of going aggressively into other markets. Maybe we overestimated the potential of India because of its population. And hence said, okay, we're just happy with the 1.4 billion people here and we'll just operate here rather than going to Southeast Asia and Middle East and everything. But those markets actually are more profitable, more, there's a lot more money there to be made. So I think the next decade is about, we definitely know how to build really kick-ass products. Do we have the ability to now be a more international player and have international ambition? And, as a ecosystem, can we build a playbook for not just B2B SaaS companies to go global, but also for B2C companies to go capture opportunities outside India very fast?
Like what US did, right?
Yeah.
So no company in US thinks of, I'm going to build a US consumer company.
Never. Yeah. Correct. If we build a great product here, we should go and introduce it in US very early. Right? And what's the playbook to go and excite a US investor to invest in an Indian company to go capture US? That we don't know yet. Right? But is it a possibility? Yes, it is. Like, for example, Koo. Like, if we get the right set of partners to go crack US, we're ready today as a product. The navigation of finding that partner to go crack US is the
hard part.
Yeah. But is it possible? Yes. And that's what we're going to attempt at some point in time.
So, Aprameya, now you have super self-confidence that, now you're going global as a consumer internet product from India for the rest of the countries around the world. How did you get this kind of confidence?
Well, entrepreneurs have confidence that nobody else has in them. Right? When we started like 3 years ago during March 2020, we had no clue about social networks or, will we ever truly like have an opportunity to beat Twitter? Not across the world, but even in India, right? So we had no clue. But the more you understand the business and the more you understand the levers, you have the playbooks in place. Now it's about how do you translate this knowledge that we have acquired to more people to back you, right? So social media is finally a place where, you can't be profitable too early. So you will need backers for a certain extent. So we are very confident of the path that we will take. Now the market has to respond with that confidence back. First, I should be able to communicate that. Second, they should be able to understand it and then accept the possibilities and then be a part of this journey. So I think my confidence in executing and knowing how to do it is very, very high. Everything else is external, right? My confidence that I will be able to explain to you and you will understand is also high. But am I sure about you taking a bet on what you've understood is something that the market will decide. Right? And the more Elon Musk goes into monetization, he's retreating back to US. In the US also, he's retreating back to the top 1%. Everybody is going to lose their blue ticks come April 15th. A lot of them are pissed. If you actually look at the fundamentals of it, it's almost like as long as you pay the platform, your voice is louder than the others. That's the most capitalistic social network you could have ever built, right? And that's almost the opposite of Twitter. On an open social network for thoughts and opinions, you should actually be judged on what you say and not how much money you have, right? So I think for countries like India, where even the top 1% will think twice about paying Twitter that money, the rest of the 99% will never pay.
Yeah.
It's actually every move that Elon is taking might be good for the US and the US business, but for the rest of the world, I think it's great for Koo.
So he's leaving an open market
Yeah, absolutely.
for you to capture. So there is a part of you that have like super confidence in your ability to execute.
Yeah.
What are the self-doubts you have as an entrepreneur?
Right now, after 3 years, I think we've got a fantastic team that's come together. But the journey to get to that, core team plus extended team who we now have so much confidence in executing has always been doubtful, right? Like when you're hiring, you're hoping for the best, but it's a 50-50 chance that you've got your hiring decision right. At least we're still early stage and you need people to believe in the possibilities. We explicitly told people who are joining us saying, don't ever ask what the company can do for you. We're not in that stage where we can answer it. If you're in the mindset where you keep asking every single moment that you're working with us, what you can do for the company, this is the right space. If you're ever going to ask what the company can do for you, then culturally you're out, because I'm not asking that question. When the company does well, will the company do enough for you? That you be rest assured it will do. But in the short term, I can't promise anything, right? So that's one example of how we used to test culture, right? And it's very, very difficult to know without actually putting yourself in a live situation with some of the people you've hired, right? So I think the self-doubt, am I hiring the right person, is always going to remain.
But was there a self-doubt while starting Koo that, hey, people are going to judge me more harshly as a second-time entrepreneur now? Should I start carefully? Should I start right?
As in, that's fear, right? Like if you let that fear set in, then, having a successful first stint becomes a handicap for your second stint, right? The natural progression should be with your every startup, you should become more confident and more risk-taking, right? You don't have to prove too much anymore, right? Your ability, or whether it's for yourself, your family, your extended friend circle, or the public, you've already proven once. Now, if you're going to start with self-doubt, then that actually makes you worse off than your first startup, right? So you shouldn't be there. So I think building a social network is the toughest business out there, because it's not
Can't get harder than this.
it can't get harder. It's not just a product game. It's not logical. Like in TaxiForSure, if you sent a cab and you drop somebody, they will give you money. It's a very closed experience. Here you don't know. Like the product is the body. The community is the soul. Okay, so who accepts you to be part of this community is actually giving life to this product. Like, how do you convince the most influential people of a country, of a language community, to be part of your network? Like, there is no playbook for that. And even if you make it a playbook, let's say you go and pay people to be part of the community. The day you stop paying, they will leave. So it can't be transactional. It has to be a lot of serendipitous moments coming together. In our case, Twitter getting into trouble was a serendipitous moment. In our case, things like Atmanirbhar Bharat as a concept is an emotion around which Koo is known for. So all these things, how do you plan? You can't plan. So hence it makes building social media very difficult. So in my case, at least, I said, let's create something impactful. If we have to beat somebody, we have to beat global tech. So when you say global tech, it's Google, Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, everybody else. There is no Indian name there.
All Indian CEOs running global companies.
Who's founded a global tech company? From India. TikTok still, ByteDance gets into that, right? But where is the Indian representation there, right? So if I have the ability, as in my experience has given me the opportunity to take a higher risk than a first-time entrepreneur, then I should be taking it, right? That's the mindset with which I've started. Whether Koo becomes a success or failure is dependent on too many factors. But will we put in our all? Will we make the right decisions at the right time. All of that, the confidence is very high.
So now you're saying that even if for 1 in 100 chance that Koo doesn't work out, right? It will not affect you. You have become so independent.
I'll be sad. As in, I put a lot of effort if it doesn't work. But the confidence in making it work is very high.
Yeah.
Right. And as I said, why was TaxiForSure a successful exit?
Yeah.
Some part of it was our effort, but a lot of it was external, right? Like the market was very bullish, but the taxi market was not bullish when we exited, right? Like because there was this rape incident in Delhi. Funds for cabs became a question mark. At the same time, Ola and Uber were aggressive. Yeah. So as an entrepreneur, you have no control over any of this, right? Even here, building the product, doing certain things is under your control. But beyond, like whether Elon Musk will suddenly say, I don't want to operate in India or not, how do we have a control? Whether, him taking down or not taking down a certain content on the platform will lead to him, as in not him, but Twitter getting banned or not, right? We have no control. So all of these are externalities. But as an entrepreneur, can you keep executing in the right direction? That I think we will keep doing.
How has your ability, right, to read the market changed over a period of time now? I think that is very important for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. No, so as in one significant reason why an entrepreneur will be successful or not is how early have you predicted the future, right? After you read something in the paper, if you go and start the same thing, your probability of success is super low. Yeah. But if you had done it 6 months before, your probability is now higher.
Yeah.
Right? And then that ability is your ability to process a lot of information without putting it down in an Excel sheet. Right? So, for example, in TaxiForSure, we started before the mobile era, the app era. What did we say? Okay, there's a solution for flights, buses, there's Flipkart for e-commerce. If you saw the trend, okay, there's nothing for cars. Is it a problem? It is a problem to get from one place to another. Can it be more reliable? Yes. So let's aggregate. And we started with a website. Now the macro environment said, okay, here's a smartphone. Here are apps in it. Now, the location tracking technology in a cab went from 70,000 rupees per car to 5,000 rupees per car.
Yeah.
Now you could enable more cars with technology. Now that's a macro that helped us, right? The app ecosystem, location tracking on a phone, everything helped us, right? Even with Koo, right? For that matter, TikTok or anybody else, the macro of phones getting cheaper as well as data getting cheaper helped that, industry go crazy, right? So there are certain things that you kind of like feel, okay, it'll happen and you will enter that market and things come together, right? So intuition, some analysis, being very, very aware of everything that's happening across the world. You just have to put yourself out there everywhere.
What's your gut feel of, two things? The first is, how long is this recession going to last? Because you have seen this over a decade almost now.
Yeah. I think this is a very, very unique time that we're in. I've never felt the market this negative for this long. And still saying it might take a year more, 2 years more, whatever it is. Why is it happening? Again, too many macro, like is it the Russia-Ukraine war?
Yeah.
Is it, China and US knowing something about, a war that's going to happen that none of us know. That's why everybody's retreating. No matter how profitable you are, you're still laying off people.
Yeah.
You're still becoming more conservative. So I think some we understand, right? Some we don't. I'm talking about the factors that are leading to all of this. But will it be longer than anything else? That's the sense that I'm also getting. But will it last forever? No. So as a business, every entrepreneur's job is to get through this phase. And this is probably going to be one of the most slow, uneventful, boring phases of being an entrepreneur. Yeah. Because you're used to going and doing exciting stuff, getting more money, being on a very fast-paced treadmill, right? Here, everybody is being forced to become slower, more efficient. So DNA change. So for example, even at Koo, we were being extremely aggressive. To switch from being aggressive to not conservative, but more efficient, I would say. First, you have to change. I had to change as an entrepreneur. My mindset had to change. Then I had to go and tell our core team. Then the core team has to digest that and change. Then the core team has to go and tell their team, right? So for the whole organization to change attitude and decision making and the way they execute and all those things takes time to change, right? So now again, when the market becomes aggressive, you have to change, right? So I think being nimble, being able to adapt, being able to get through this phase positively with a positive attitude, I think is very, very important.
Because the whole market is kind of converging towards negative right now. The VCs especially, right?
Correct.
Saying the growth stage money has disappeared from the market.
Yeah, so the job of the entrepreneur is to get through this phase. You never know when it switches, right? So your job is to become more investable than what you were before, right?
So that's a very nice term, right? You become more investable than you were before.
Yeah.
And you do that by reading the market better each and every time?
No, I wouldn't take so much credit for myself, but it's a team effort, right? Investors on my board basically have a much broader view because each one of them is dealing with at least 10, 20 more companies. And they will get a sense faster than a single company will get a sense. Now, trusting their judgment as well, right? When they first raise their hands and say, boss, be more conservative, don't go, you have to respond to that and become more conservative. So I wouldn't take all the credit for myself. It's also a lot of signals from people who care about the company, who will keep pushing you in the right direction. So, yeah.
And one part is right. Whenever an entrepreneur succeeds, there's a certain kind of unconscious arrogance that comes in. That, hey, I was predicting to be right, but I'm also now right.
Yeah.
So how do you counter that? Because the more successful you get, the more this subconscious bias tends to come in.
I think being more confident is welcome. Something is working for you better than everybody else, right? So being confident and, telling people as much as you can, as in communicating how you're getting that confidence or how you're navigating that is very, very welcome for the ecosystem, because then Bangalore or India or, the whole ecosystem gets better at predicting the future and, building better technology than everybody else across the world and, things like that. But what slows us down is the arrogance. When you get arrogant, you don't share, you kind of centralize all the power or whatever. That I think is unwelcome.
This arrogance that starts keeping in, right? So whenever an entrepreneur raises our next round, I have observed, right? Even in myself, right? A self-observation that there was certain kind of arrogance that we are going to win the world. Right? At some point, then you start dissociating. The listening becomes weak. It's each notch of arrogance going up.
When you actually look at the scale of the world and where our best startups also are, our best valued is Flipkart, or, even Byju's. In the grand scheme of things, if these two companies didn't exist, the world would still
be the same.
Go on, right? That's our best, most valued startups. And the world doesn't even care whether they exist or not. Apart from the shareholders of those companies, who else cares?
Nobody.
Right?
They'll find someone
because
else.
I'll have another alternative or I'll figure out something else. Now that is a realization the founder should have. Okay, you're worth 20 plus billion. But if you can not exist and nobody cares tomorrow, apart from yourself and your shareholders, it's a problem. Right? So you've not truly added enough value to the world. Right? So I think we have so much more to do. Raising one more round at double the valuation is not success. To be able to be a small company but have millions of people miss you when you don't exist is actually true love. Right? So I think what we chase defines how much arrogance. Right? If you chase unconditional love from more and more users, not just from one startup but multiple startups, then there is no end.
Yeah.
Where is the opportunity to be even arrogant, right? Because you'll never conquer the world. Like, leave startups or businesses, right? Even in the past, when Alexander or whoever went around the world conquering the whole world, nobody could conquer the world eventually. There must have been a phase where they were at their peak, but everybody falls.
Yes.
Right? So there is no scope to be arrogant. It is about how you perceive the world and what you perceive as success.
And how has your relationship with VCs changed, right? Because now you have seen everything, I would say, in the last decade.
They've really played an important role in my life, at least. As I said, as a first-time entrepreneur, there is no other way that I could have built TaxiForSure. So tremendous respect for the ecosystem of money that is available. It's become much better, all of those things. What I would have liked is more people who have run real businesses to be VCs. Because there's a lot of nuances and nitty-gritties that the typical MBA VC doesn't get. And even with 20 company experience, I think, the nuances of running a company is always going to add a little more character into investing rather than, being very theoretical about it.
Into every conversation.
Yeah, in every conversation you're meeting and stuff like that. So overall, tremendous respect. What I would have liked is more experience into building in the VC ecosystem. Also, we need to kind of increase the number of people who set the trend. Like, the more investors who take crazy bets of defining the future, the more India will be able to solve world problems. See, if you want to be a global technology destination, right? If you want Bangalore to replace SFO or Palo Alto. Palo Alto is Palo Alto, SFO is SFO, Bay Area is Bay Area, because they solve world problems.
And 40 years of risk taking.
Yeah, and crazy risk taking, right? And seeing the future like nobody else does. Now, those companies got backed because there were investors who were able to take that risk. We need that in India. Like, it can't be, oh, I love your story, but show me your Excel sheet. And you're not setting the trend anymore. You're going by, okay, what's the trend in US? So you will make Bangalore into a replica of what works in
what
Bay
was
Area.
SF 20 years ago.
Yeah, but if you want to take one leap, you need investors who come and say, what is 20 years from now? Let me take my 100 rupees that I have to invest and take 20 rupees and invest only into like some crazy ideas. And it's not just one VC. It has to be the ecosystem. Like, from seed to growth, all stages should have a certain portion saying, boss, this, I'm going to make some crazy bets.
At least one observation which I have is how the VC ecosystem has matured is now nobody asks, where is the American or Chinese counterpart? In 2014-15, when I was building, I'm sure people would have asked you, where is your American and Chinese counterpart who have built the story?
No, so I think it still exists. Like, Oyo is one example of being from India and going abroad, but I don't know the eventual story of Oyo, it will play out. But at least, it was a big enough thing that it went global, the concept was real, right? So I think we need more such bets. Like, if you take 20 Oyo type of bets, then you'll get 5 really successful stories out of it. If you've taken only one Oyo bet, then everything hinges on whether that is successful or not. Right?
So you're big, I think what I conclude with this interaction is, in next 10 years, you are bullish on Indian consumer technology products going global.
Yeah, I would like to see that. There's a lot of potential. We have the talent for it. We have to build the capability of dreaming that big, right? That's it. Like, if you can see that far early enough, I think you can also build.
And you're willing to put your money behind it also.
Of course. Absolutely. Like, I need to be convinced that the founder is truly in that journey, right? That's about it. I truly believe that Swiggy is better than most global counterparts. So, Koo, we've built like everything Twitter has, plus languages, plus a lot of other stuff in 2 years. Twitter is a 15-year-old company.
Almost a 15-year-old company.
Yeah, with probably, so how many engineers do we have? At peak, we've had 80 engineers. Yeah. Like, with that, if we can build everything Twitter has, the talent is here. It's about how big you can think.
Twitter, I think, is running the 5th CEO.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So we have the capability. It's about dreaming big enough. Like the ecosystem itself should learn how to dream bigger, dream global, and then the resources will come for it.
And what are the other things that you're willing to bet your money on for next 10 years?
Yeah. So consumer going global. So fintech, like UPI and everything else that India has developed, I think is amazing. We're already integrating with the Singapore and Middle East, and so I think that is a welcome change. It will disrupt Visa, MasterCard, all of these. I think there will be everything AI driven. So there will be an AI alternative to everything that's happening already.
So people were imagining super app for this. Now AI is becoming that super app interface for everything.
Yeah. So flight booking, if Make My Trip doesn't do an AI version of themselves,
somebody else will do.
There will be a flight booking version which is so much easier, right? I will just state blah 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 and
book the cheapest flight available for this time to do this time in this airways preferable.
Correct. And apply my American Express card or whatever card that has a discount. It's a conversation and a very highly accurate, intelligent conversation that will give the results, right? So I think AI driven alternatives to everything. Like we've integrated ChatGPT into Koo. I really think, we'll keep getting deeper into making creators lazier into creating content.
Yeah.
That's a deep opportunity that we've started our journey on. So I think, AI, consumer going global from India. So these are some of the things.
And what have been, as an angel investor, your riskiest bets that have paid off?
I invested in Open when they were almost out of money. They became the 100th unicorn, right? So that was a high risk bet, but I really like the founders and hence I said, okay, this solution has to exist and you guys are really passionate about it. Another Daily Ninja I had invested in, one of the first few milk delivery, guys that started, they exited to Big Basket. As in financially, it wasn't like too much of a upside, but the very fact that that concept played out and got bought out by a big guy was great. I was early investor in Unacademy, exited that, but early bet on EdTech.
Yeah.
I've also invested in Third Wave Coffee.
Yeah.
They had one coffee shop. Now they're all over the place.
Yes.
But I invested when they had one and they were starting their second.
Okay.
Right. So all of these, like I invest very, very early. So one of the founders of Trell who had invested has started Srimandir.
Yeah.
That also will do well is my guess. Because it's a very India specific offline spiritual experience being converted into digital spiritual experience, right? Very, very made for India type of experience. So all these are early bets, very risky.
I believe you would have been angel today in like 100 companies.
Close to that. I think I'm in the 60-70 range.
Okay. Yeah. So how did like the financial independence with the exit, right, change you as a person?
I think it's just changed what I do. As a person, I'm the same. If I didn't have financial independence, then I would have tried to work for somebody. What I did on a daily basis would have changed.
Yeah.
But now it gives me a lot more ability to go and do a startup like Koo or something else. So I think it's helped me take a lot more risk professionally. That's what's really changed.
And in your personal life, so the choices that you make, what has changed?
As in, of course, you've upgraded your where you live, what you do. But that's just to make life easier so that you can spend more time doing stuff you love.
I believe it will also have, made you conscious of the kind of people you associate with and now giving you, make friends who have the best mind that you want to be part of, right? Because it's always the principle, the top 5 people make you what you are.
Yeah. So actually, I'm not too social. I spend more time with people that I vibe with.
Yeah.
It's not about how intelligent somebody is or what they talk about or anything like that. Like if there is somebody who wants to spend an evening playing music, it doesn't matter how successful or not successful they are. I will still spend a few hours without thinking of anything else, right? If somebody wants to talk about the future of AI and in a meaningful manner, it doesn't matter who they are, right? So yes, you're right. The more time you spend, you are who you spend time with, you are what you eat, all of that is true. But I don't think I try to optimize in that direction. like while it's true, but if you make too much of an effort to do it, then
It becomes a task.
yeah, it's not natural.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
And besides, let's say building Koo is one part of your personality, right?
Hmm.
What are the other aspirations you have for yourself for, let's say, next few years?
You know, the way technology is accelerating, like while I'm a fan of AI, we've integrated ChatGPT and all of that will happen. But if you look at really unit level, each human has no control over themselves.
Yeah.
Like I truly don't have control over everything I think and do and all of those things. And when we don't have that at a unit level, we're trying to go and automate and replicate humanity at scale, which is a very dangerous thing to do, right? When you know that you're not perfect as a human, now trusting that on a machine to replicate whatever you're doing will only lead to acceleration of what humanity would have done otherwise. Are we ready for that? Are we not ready for that? While on one side, I will want to accelerate that technology, but in the true sense, I actually want to decelerate it as well.
Because there's a fear of a Terminator-like scenario.
It will happen. Like you don't know what we're entering. Like beyond a point, we don't even know what that technology will learn and put back into us. Right? So I think there is a danger of that. So to get it right will be one of my aspirations. Like, can I contribute to get it right? Can I contribute to make sure that we don't accelerate it before time? Otherwise, we're done as a race. So I think going internal will help. Like the more confident we are at a unit level, like the more in control of our own thoughts and our possibilities as a human will contribute to, the more intelligent we can make AI in the right manner. Yeah.
And you think, right, everybody's saying that India shining. But as an entrepreneur, you see the granularity of it because the poverty in India still exists at that scale, right? Which was almost similar to 10 years ago. Maybe the startup ecosystem is shining, but is the core India really shining? And you are associated with the core.
Yeah, the opportunities are big. That's what I think we mean by India shining. And India at 100 years of independence will be very different. The number of people who will make significantly more money will be more. There'll be a larger middle class and upper class. So all of that is the positivity of it. Can we accelerate it is the only thing, right? Today's scenario is what you're explaining. Can we give more opportunity for people to make more money, to live a decent life? I think we've got very deterministic leadership to move India in that direction. We're, as a country, we're thinking global. G20, we're trying to say we are capable as a country to, define the narratives for the world.
Yeah.
How much importance should we give to climate versus something else? All of that, we're showing that we're capable of defining those. So I think that way, there's a lot of possibility. And we're much capable than most other countries in the world. So it's a good place to be.
Thank you so much, Aprameya. I love the conversation that I had with you. And I find that, my listeners will find it equally entertaining. The curiosity I find in your voice is amazing. Being a second-time entrepreneur, I find there's zero weight that you carry today.
It's actually good to always be in learning mode.
Yeah.
Right. So if you behave like you know everything, then you're going to be closed to anything new that is put to you. So yeah, as in my daughter who's 6 years old, actually when I see her absorbing everything and she's eager to learn more, I think that's the perfect state to be. That actually helps.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.